Alright, my friends, it is time for our test on our unit about fighting for a cause. That test will be on these 7 individuals and the causes they fought for and how they chose to fight for those causes. We reviewed a lot in our last lesson and the lesson before, so I'm going to jump right into our test today instead of reviewing, because I think if I reviewed all of those people again, you'd go crazy. I'm sure you're sick of hearing me talk about them. So we'll get started right away with our test today. We have 3 tests today, or 3 parts, 3 different assessments. Our first one, as always, will be about our vocabulary words, and it will be one of our thumbs up and thumbs down pages. On the next one, we'll have the names of 3 of these people for each question. I'll tell you a statement about them, and you will circle who it is about. And our last one, we will answer using complete sentences. We will answer open-ended questions, where you have to tell me the answer instead of picking an answer from a list of choices. I'm going to move over to my computer. I know it's sometimes hard to hear me on the camera since there's so much static. So I'm going to move over to my computer so you can hear me better. Do your very best on this test. I believe in you guys, and I am sure that you will do amazing. Good luck, my friends. Go ahead and open up the PDF and let's get started. Again, this first one will be thumbs up and thumbs down. Ignore that circle on that first one. It is a misprint. Listen carefully to my question before deciding which one it is. If at any point you need to rewind my questions or pause to give you time to fill in or circle the thumbs up or thumbs down, feel free to do so. I'm going to ask some questions about our vocabulary words. If the answer to my question is yes, you will circle or fill in the thumbs up. If the answer to my question is no, you will circle or fill in the thumbs down. Our first one is civil rights. Are civil rights those rights promised by the government to all people, such as the right to vote? Number 2, discrimination. Before the civil rights movement, was discrimination against certain groups of people common? Number 3, nonviolence. Are fighting and breaking windows examples of nonviolence? Number 4, suffrage. Is suffrage when you have to eat something that you don't like? Number 5, First Lady. Is the First Lady the wife of the president? Number 6, human rights. Are human rights those that belong to all people, even if they aren't promised by the government, such as the right to food, shelter, and education, and a job? Number 7, boycott. Is a boycott when you refuse to go to a business as a sign of protest? Number 8, segregation. Is segregation when everyone is allowed to be a part of something? Number 9, sit-ins. Were sit-ins peaceful protests because they involved people occupying or sitting at a place to show everyone they were upset about some unfair treatment? Number 10, migrant workers. Did migrant workers tend to stay in the same town from season to season? Number 11, achievements. Did Eleanor Roosevelt believe that her role in writing the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was one of her greatest achievements? Number 12, courage. Does courage mean showing bravery, especially when it's difficult and you're afraid? "13. Proud. Are parents usually proud of their children when they do their worst work in school? Number 14. Extraordinary. Was Martin Luther King Jr. extraordinary in his strength and willingness to fight for civil rights for all people? And number 15. Obstacles. Were there obstacles in the way of Susan B. Anthony when she tried to vote? For the second assessment today, each number has 3 different names. These are all names of people that we have learned about. I'm going to read a sentence that is true about one of those people. Your job is to circle the name of the person that my sentence describes. You will only circle one name for every question. Number 1, our names are Susan B. Anthony, Rosa Parks, and Mary McLeod Bethune. Number 1, I wanted women to have the right to vote. Was that Susan B. Anthony, Rosa Parks, or Mary Bethune? Again, if at any point you need to pause or rewind, that's totally okay. Number 2, our names are Martin Luther King Jr., Jackie Robinson, and Cesar Chavez. I was the first African American to play baseball in the major leagues. The first African American to play baseball in the major leagues. Martin Luther King Jr., Jackie Robinson, or Cesar Chavez. Number 3, our names are Mary Bethune, Rosa Parks, and Eleanor Roosevelt. I was called the mother of the civil rights movement. The mother of the civil rights movement. Was that Mary McLeod Bethune, Rosa Parks, or Eleanor Roosevelt? Number 4, Eleanor Roosevelt, Susan B. Anthony, Rosa Parks. I was a first lady and helped allow Marian Anderson to sing at the Lincoln Memorial. Eleanor Roosevelt, Susan B. Anthony, or Rosa Parks? 5. Rosa Parks, Mary McLeod Bethune, Susan B. Anthony. I started a school for African American children in Daytona Beach, Florida. Again, is that Rosa Parks, Mary McLeod Bethune, or Susan B. Anthony? Number 6, Eleanor Roosevelt, Susan B. Anthony, Mary McLeod Bethune. I worked with Elizabeth Cady Stanton and traveled the country giving speeches on women's rights. Eleanor Roosevelt, Susan B. Anthony, or Mary Bethune? Number 7, Cesar Chavez, Martin Luther King Jr., and Jackie Robinson. I gave my I Have a Dream speech from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Was that Cesar Chavez, Martin Luther King Jr., or Jackie Robinson? Number 8, Mary McLeod Bethune, Eleanor Roosevelt, Rosa Parks. I refused to move and give up my seat on a bus to a white person. Was that Mary Bethune, Eleanor Roosevelt, or Rosa Parks? Number 9, Jackie Robinson, Martin Luther King Jr., Cesar Chavez. I fought for migrant workers to receive better pay and more reasonable working conditions. Was that Jackie Robinson, Martin Luther King Jr., or Cesar Chavez? Number 10, Martin Luther King Jr., Cesar Chavez, Jackie Robinson. I worked with Rosa Parks to lead the Montgomery bus boycott. Was that Martin Luther King Jr., Cesar Chavez, or Jackie Robinson? All right, my friends, we have got one more part of our test. We are almost there. Go ahead and scroll down to our last part. Our last part is 2 pages. On those 2 pages, there are some questions that you will need to answer using complete sentences. That means you have a subject and a predicate. Your sentence makes sense. It doesn't start with because or and. It starts with a capital letter and ends with a period. You will get 1 point for answering the question correctly and 1 point for answering in a complete sentence. Make sure you are writing in complete sentences. I'm going to read these pretty quickly. You will want to pause after I ask each question, take some time to answer, and then resume the video. Number 1, choose one of the people you have learned about and write about the cause for which she or he fought. One of those 7 people. Number 2, why did the people in this domain feel a need to fight for change? Number 3, What are some of the different ways these people fought for their causes? What things did they do? What sorts of things did they do to fight for their causes? Number 4, if you could meet one of the people you learned about, whom would you choose and why? There are 2 parts to that question. Tell me who you would want to meet, and then tell me why you would want to meet that person. So you can't just give me a name and a reason. And number 5, what is the most interesting thing that you learned from fighting for a cause? That's the name of our domain. So the most interesting thing you learned from this domain. All right, my friends, when you've got all of those answered and all the rest of the test complete as well, go ahead and turn that one in. And you are all done with knowledge for today and for the whole year. Congratulations. I have had a blast teaching you these knowledge lessons, and I will see you next year.